So what you have in the story is about a stonecutter, and it's about a man who was born. Perhaps he had the passion, perhaps he was just following in the footsteps of his own clan or his own father. And he began to cut stones. He would go early morning to the mountain with his chisel and hammer and begin to crack, these rocks and put them in a basket, take them to town and sell them. And then go to Safeway, buy some milk and bread and cheese for her family. And one day as he's going to Safeway, he sees this man. And the man is sitting on a horse, and he's wearing this like kingly outfit. And this humble stonecutter says, I want to be like him. I want to be like this man seated on a horse with this gown. And the gods apparently liked him very much. So in a blink of an eye, he is turned into this king. He's now sitting on the horse, and people are bowing to him. They like him, they respect him. And he says, this is much better than being a stonecutter, because I have all this power. But he's sitting on this horse, on this leather seat, and it's, say, Stockton or Merced or Roseville, temperature is 955, and he's sweating like a pig. And he said, man, I thought being a king was good, but I don't think it is. It's not very powerful either, because what's most powerful right now is the sun, because it's making my life uncomfortable, and despite all the power I may have, I can't control the heat of the sun. And he prayed saying, God, please make me the sun, the most powerful of all things. And so in an instant, he becomes the sun. And now he, scorches people with a tremendous amount of heat, making everyone's lives miserable. And the sun, being the most powerful now, he's very, very happy about who and what he is. Then one day the sun comes up and comes to realize that despite all of his power, its rays are not going out. And he looks out and there is this tiny little black cloud. It's a black cloud, not allowing the sun to shine its rays upon people and making their lives misery. And he says, I can't believe that this tiny little black cloud is more powerful than I am. I want to be the cloud. And he becomes a cloud, and he, creates, storms and hurricanes and all that stuff. And he says, yes, I'm very happy now because I'm the most powerful of all things. This is what we call being covetedness, that you lust after power. You covet power, you want to be that power, you want to embody the power, and you want to be deemed as the strongest thing out there. And then one day, as this cloud is just creating havoc on people's lives, comes to feel as if something is just pushing and moving it, left and right. Looks out, there is a wind. The wind is just pushing this tiny little cloud all over the place, and says, man, I thought I would be the most powerful thing on the face of the planet, but I guess I'm not. And prays again, I wish to be the wind. And again, in an instant, he becomes the wind. And now he turns the cars over and, demolishes houses and, all sorts of things that he can find. And then one day, as the wind is moving around, making a mess of everything, it hits against something that remains unmoved. And looks out there, and there is this mountain. It says, man, more powerful than the wind is the mountain. I like to become the mountain. And the gods like him enough to make him into the mountain. And now, if you want to build a road, you have to go through the mountain, but the mountain is far too powerful. It's rock solid. No matter how big a bulldozer or a jackhammer, the mountain refuses to be cracked. And then one day, as this mountain is just refusing to make life happen for anyone, it hears something very strange, and he looks out there at the very top. There is this tiny little man with a hammer and a chisel. And with his tiny little hammer and chisel, he's just slowly, just breaking away piece by piece. And the mountain is amazed, saying, well, more powerful than the mountain, is this man, this tiny little pathetic man with a hammer and chisel. I want to become it. And then the gods like him enough again to make him into this man. And then all of a sudden he comes to realize that I can't believe what just has happened. I thought that being the most powerful was being this man seated on a horse, and then being the sun, and then being the cloud, and then being the wind, and then being the mountain, ultimately becoming the man that I've always been. Now, the truth is, first, it's very difficult to see what you're made for in life. And, Someone like Jesus Christ, someone like Beethoven, someone like Mozart, someone like Van Gogh, they have it really, really easy because they come out of their mother's womb at the age of like 5 or 6. They just know they're a pianist. They just know that they're an artist of sorts. The rest of us, we really have to, we have to travel the world to figure out where exactly we belong. And it's disappointing, it's heart-wrenching because many of us won't ever get there. It's like you go to a buffet, you eat everything that's out there, and in the end you realize you don't really know what you want to have on your plate anymore. It's very confusing. And then you kind of just give up. You look at your friend, you look at your mom and say, Mom, just put anything on the plate. I'm tired of making choices and coming to realize that my choices don't really end up well. That's to some extent the metaphorical food that you're talking about, Charles, not so much what goes through your mouth, but the sort of choices, the psychological nourishments, emotional nourishments, intellectual nourishments that we give ourselves, and at times physical, of course. And I think in many cases that's our story. When is enough enough? For someone like Mozart, his life is set. Even if you give him the riches, at the end of the day, he wants to be locked up in a room with his piano. He doesn't care if he lives in a mansion or if he's in a studio. He has a very, very easy life. If you're dealing with someone like, say, Jesus, for example, his life is also very easy. Remember, no life is easy. Every life is complicated. It has its own set of issues. But it's easy in the sense that you just know at the age of 12, this is who you are. You may have physical parents, but they're certainly not your spiritual parents. You read the Bible, but what you really want is the Spirit of God flowing through your veins. That's really, really an awesome place to be in life at such a young age. Khalil Gibran, he has a love affair with writing, with thinking, with feeling, with painting, with sketching. And his life is very easy. Someone like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, they just know at a very young age. They don't have to be like the stone cutter. One day becoming this, another day becoming that. It's kind of like the way that it used to be for our grandparents. You look at someone, you like them, you marry them, and that's basically it. Through thick and thin, you just stay with this person. For us, it's very, very difficult. First of all, if you happen to be an introvert, in other words, things on the outside, they are good to have, but at the end of the day, you realize that there is something about you that has lost something. You don't know what it has lost. You have your parents, everything's perfectly fine about your life. It's kind of like the story of the Buddha. You come from a great culture, you have great parents, you have a great wife, you have great children or a great child, and you don't even have to look for a job because, once your father passes away, you're right now a prince, he'll give you his kingdom. You have an immense amount of power in your life, but then all of a sudden he comes to realize at a very, very young age, 16, 17, 18, 19, depending on, what kind of books you've read about Buddhism. This guy says, I like my culture, but it's just not enough. I like my dad, I like my mom, they're not enough. I like the fact that I'm married, that's great, but she's not enough. I like the fact that I have a child and I love my kid, that's not enough. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I want to let go of everything and go into the forest. And it's a very strange place to be because most of the people on this planet, they want a mother, they want a father, they want a job, they want to be a king or a queen of sorts, they want to be in a good relationship, they want children, they want to be a king, they want to rule over other people, perhaps justly or unjustly, it doesn't really matter. And yet you have this kid, and we're talking about 3,000 years ago, money is tough to come by, life is really, really complicated, you only have two classes, the rich and the poor, there is no middle class. And you wake up in the morning, you work really, really hard like a mule, and by the time you get home, you just fall apart. You have zero energy to do much of anything. And yet you could sustain life. You didn't really have very many traumas inside. You were social, and you were sociable, and you were kind, you were decent, you had integrity. And you have this kid at the age of 16 or 17 says, I don't want any of this stuff. That's really strange. Why the hell would you want to do that? Why would you want to run away from the luxuries of life and then assume a life that contains so much hardship? You go against life, which is all of a sudden you become attracted to monks. What the hell do monks do? They sit. They sit without having their body move. And that goes against the biology of what it means to be a human being. Your body is active, it's engaged, it wants to do things, and yet you choose a life that is completely passive. I just don't want to care anymore. I don't care about people. I don't care about any of those things because emotions mean nothing at the end of the day. Okay, so you care for something and they die. All right, so you grieve, you go through the grieving process, you do the grieving rituals, and then you forget. Why the hell would I want to allow my emotions to toy with me for like 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks and then be forgotten? And then me having never learned anything from these emotions. I don't want to be this cloud being toyed by this wind. So that's what you call an introvert. In other words, you're born, you have this thing inside you that is never satisfied with anything. Now, the problem with being an introvert is this. When you're an introvert, you look around you and everybody in life is doing something. And everybody in life is finding value in the things that they're doing. And then you sit back. Consider the following. Rock assumes his question to be interesting. Charles says his question is interesting. Julian says his question is interesting. You want to raise your hand and ask your question. You say, no question is interesting. The idea that like Black lives matter or brown lives matter or this life matter or that life matters. And I suppose perhaps the more grand question would be, why should any life matter really? People come, people go, they're forgotten. What life really matters? Even if you were to say the life of Malcolm X matters, or the life of Mahatma Gandhi matters, or the life of Plato matters, or the life of Jesus Christ matters, the truth is ultimately they all become like a belief system in which there is no life, there is no spirit. People just like to believe because it makes them feel good about who and what they are. And so the difficulty with being an introvert is you look around you and everybody's going somewhere, everybody's doing something, and then you begin to self-hate. Why am I not being like other people? Why can't I be sociable? Why do I feel so awkward? What the hell is wrong with me? And then you begin to have a good amount of resentment inside you, and you feel profoundly incompetent because other people are relatively going to school and they're having a good time. They have their bachelor's and master's and PhD. They're prospering in life, and here you are. You may have gone to school, or you may even have a master's or a PhD, but you feel inwardly as a loser, like a loser, and you don't know what to do with yourself. And so you become very much like the stone cutter. You say, well, maybe what I have lost inside has something to do with what the world has to offer me. I just don't know what that is yet. So you become a person who graduates from high school. Then you say, nah, that's not working out for me. Then you become a person who graduates from college. Then you say, it was good, but that's not really doing it for me. Then you go to college. Then you go to a 4-year school. Then you get your bachelor's. Then you get your master's. Then you get your PhD. Then you get a job that you've always dreamt, which was being in the classroom and teaching. Then you say, yeah, that's good, but I really want a companion. Remember, our life is very, very much like the stone cutter. We're just like hopping from one thing to another to kind of bring about some value, some meaning to our life that you can look yourself in the mirror and say, yes, this is working out for me. And then you get married and that doesn't work out. It's great, don't get me wrong. All the things that you're doing are really, really good, but you still are not feeling completely content or happy. And maybe human beings are not meant to be happy. Maybe they're not meant to be content. در اندرون من خسته دل ندانم کیست که من خموشم او در فغان و در غوغاست. I don't know what lives inside me. Every time I want to sit, it screams, get up, do something, make yourself into something. Don't be slothful, don't be lazy, don't be an idiot. And I suppose all human beings are condemned by that inner voice that despite all of your achievements, you're still nothing. You still are not doing anything. Your life lacks meaning. And consider Obama, consider Trump, consider Biden. These are people who are relatively old, about to die. They have everything in life. They have power, they have money, they have fame, they have prestige. And yet they want something more. They want to be the president. They want to rule over the entire world. That's what they want to do. And human beings are condemned. It's very easy to kind of condemn Trump. It's very easy to condemn Biden. It's very easy to condemn, Obama. That may all be true because of their personality, but the truth is there is something just wrong with the human being because they keep wanting something they don't have, and they can't be content with this entire thing that they have. And then what happens, and remember, desires create shadows. That's what desires do. And shadows are very tempting. because you say, I'm going to get a PhD. All of a sudden you have a shadow of a Chris, of a Julian, of a Rock, of a Charles saying, I am right now at Laney. This is not a fun place to be. And then you create a shadow. And usually these shadows are created because you go out there, someone has a PhD or someone has a job that you desperately want, or you say, this is a good fit for me. A shadow is created and you run to capture the shadow. And then eventually you capture it only to realize, yeah, you have a job, you just don't want it anymore. Or it's not as meaningful to you as it once was. Or, you fail to understand the true message of Hinduism or Christianity or Buddhism, that the world is one gigantic toy store and all toys will eventually break. It's called Maya, the world of illusion. And once you follow an illusion or a shadow, eventually you'll come to realize you have it, but it doesn't really mean anything right now to you anymore. So you end up in this place called samsara, or the world of suffering. And most of the shadows, very much like the New Testament, the gospel story, it's part of the world. You gain the world, you pursue the shadow, only to realize at the end of the day you have nothing. You have lots of money, you just don't know what to spend it on anymore. And so you look at your savings account, you have $200,000, you look around you and you say, nothing out there looks interesting. So you look at the world, it means nothing. You look at your savings account and you say, I have all this money, to do what with? Now, I think for most of us, what usually happens, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, is that your salvation, unfortunately, our salvation comes in this way. From a very, very young age to probably when you're like 60 or 70 or 80, you keep accumulating things. And then one day you walk into your house and you realize, man, you have 50 chairs and you have 50 tables and you have 900, this and 900 that. And the house feels cluttered. And then you say, and it takes a while for you to get there. And then you say, I don't even use any of this stuff. The last time I used one of those beautiful chinas was like 50 years ago. The last time I sat in one of those chairs was 25 years ago. The last time I even went to those other bedrooms was like 10 years ago. Maybe I should just get rid of this entire house with everything in it. And then you do something really, really amazing. You want to put stuff just outside on the driveway for people just to take. You don't even want money anymore because you have enough of it in the bank account. You just put big sign, free. And then there is a struggle because what you have, whenever you spend time with someone, it doesn't matter what it is. You can spend time with the most abusive person or with the most healthy person. What time does is that it creates stories. Even if those stories are negative, you hate the person. Well, hate creates anger. You know what to do when this person comes home. You're just going to lock yourself in the room, and you're going to write. You're going to cry. You're going to scream. You're going to read the Bible. It doesn't really matter. But at least it's a known environment. It's familiar to you. Once this father comes home and is drunk, you'll just go to your room and you play music. So your life, for the most part, is very, very familiar. Fear gives your life meaning. Hatred gives you life meaning. You know what to do. They're like GPS to your life. I'm going to watch TV from 5 to 6. 7 o'clock, my father's going to come in. I'm going to run to the bedroom. I'm going to stay there till about noon or midnight, whatever. And so going back to his question, whenever you spend time with anything, it matters very little what it is. And then you walk. And you come out to your driveway after 5 hours and you realize it's empty. Everybody has come to your house and they have taken everything that you put out there. And then you go into your house and you say, hello. And now for the first time, you remember how it first felt when you moved into your house. It was empty. You said hello and you would hear the echo. As it becomes cluttered, you say hello, there is no echo. The sofa captures some of your voice, the pots and pans capture other aspects of your voice, and you say hello and nothing comes back to you, as if your voice is just being stolen by the things you've accumulated. And so part of you is stored in the plates, the other part is stored in this jacket. Now you go home, the house has nothing in it. You say hello, and the house says, hello, it's been a while. And for the first time, you take this deep breath. It's a sigh of contentment that you're now able and content just having one sofa, one plate, one cup, and you live like a monk and you're extremely happy and you don't feel lost. There is nothing to grieve over. And I think that is the problem with all of us. You know, you keep reading, you keep accumulating, whether it's ideas or sofas or plates or girlfriends or boyfriends, it doesn't really matter. There comes a point in your life and my life where you say, I just want to give things away anymore. I just don't need them. You know, there was a time I used to be interested in the ideas of Immanuel Kant and his concept of beauty, inspiring, beautiful. But the truth is, I no longer need it. I don't want to go to a classroom and talk about this. And it's a funny thing. You know, I struggled to find the full-time position, and I found it. And I'm very grateful to have found a job that I'm good at and I'm passionate about. And I think every morning now that I've woken up for the past 2-3 years, every morning I wake up, when I'm driving to campus, I say, should I just call it quits now? Should I retire now? And you have been in my classes for many, many years. You know that when you and I first met in the classroom, I used to scream and shout and be very loud and obnoxious. I used to, use a lot of profanities. Now, I'm mostly monotone. If you pay attention, my voice is relatively tired. And I realize I don't need to shout. I don't need to be obnoxious. I don't really need the attention I once used to, have needed. I am good for the most part, remaining invisible, for people not to like me as much or not like me, period. I know who I am, what my position is in regards to life, as well as death.